just before the A-levels, because the school heartthrob said he didn't like me. My childhood friend locked me in the equipment room for a day and a night. As a result, I missed the A-levels and scored 0. But she thought it was my own fault, telling me not to be petty. It's because you were rude and annoying. Otherwise, who would target you? Your grades weren't that great anyway. It was just a joke. Don't be so stingy. I didn't reply, I just quietly transferred schools and retook the year. A year later, at a class reunion, a friend asked my childhood friend how I was doing. She scoffed, assuming I hadn't contacted her because I hadn't done well in my exams. Don't worry, that loser can't live without me. But later, she realized I hadn't sent her a birthday gift and indeed hadn't contacted her at all. She panicked. She rushed to my house that night, only to find my whole family celebrating my acceptance into the University of Cambridge. The door was opened by a beautiful, unfamiliar girl. The girl, holding my hand, asked me with some surprise, "Darling, who is this person?" Ding! Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. It was a day so bright and sunny it was almost blinding, as if even the heavens were setting the stage for Mike Howard's arrival. He leaned against the classroom doorway, his expensive designer watch catching the sunlight and scattering tiny fragments of light, instantly capturing the attention of every student in the school. Tiffany Barnes' pen paused involuntarily, leaving a long, crooked mark on her draft paper. Soon enough, Tiffany became a regular visitor to his desk. Once, I accidentally stumbled upon her presenting Mike with a pair of limited edition trainers, her face full of eagerness to please. It was a side of her I'd never seen before. Mike casually accepted them, saying offhandedly, "They're all right, I suppose." Even so, Tiffany beamed more brightly than if she'd received full marks on an exam, her eyes sparkling with a light I couldn't comprehend. Later, someone posted on the school forum that I was Tiffany's childhood friend. The post instantly shot to the top of the page. Mike left a flippant comment, "Makes me sick just looking at it." Little did I know that this reply would be like a bombshell, shattering my life into pieces. "Don't wait for me after school anymore. You make me sick. You're just embarrassing me." Tiffany spat out these words on the very day Mike left his comment, ruthlessly flinging away the Costa coffee I'd offered her. The brown liquid splashed all over me, instantly drawing the attention of the surrounding students. Jeers and taunts erupted from all sides. They said Tiffany had truly lost her head, not even sparing her childhood friend. Tiffany's face flushed with embarrassment. She shoved me hard and ran off, leaving me standing there, disheveled and humiliated. That night, I saw her Facebook post, just a few short words. "So annoying, always being stuck with irrelevant people. Any good solutions?" I knew this post was most likely visible only to me. I gave a bitter smile and sent her a private message, "I won't bother you anymore." As expected, the moment I sent the message, a big exclamation mark appeared in the chat box. She had blocked me. From posting on Facebook to blocking my contact, it took less than 5 minutes. She was so certain that I would see that message immediately and that I would try to contact her, that she blocked me without hesitation, wanting to be rid of me completely. The next day, news of my falling out with Tiffany Barnes spread across the entire campus. When I walked into the classroom, almost everyone looked at me with mocking eyes, as if I were some kind of joke. Some classmates even deliberately patted me on the shoulder, only to burst into laughter the next second. I was utterly confused. It was Tiffany who had changed her attitude, so why were they laughing at me? But soon I got my answer. Before I could even sit down, Tiffany stormed into the classroom doorway and shouted at me, "Zach Layton, come out here." I frowned and was about to walk out when the class erupted into raucous laughter. At that moment, I understood. They were laughing at me for being pushed around by a girl. I hesitated, wanting to go back, but feared it would only make them laugh harder. Left with no choice, I endured the mockery and followed Tiffany to the stairwell. As soon as we stopped, Tiffany slapped me across the face without warning. The stinging pain left me momentarily stunned. "Zach Layton, look what you've done." Because of you, I've become the laughingstock of the whole school. People are calling me a heartless dam who turns on her friends. She glared at me, her voice filled with rage. I stared at her woodenly, feeling a surge of resentment rising in my chest. Tiffany, I've been passive in all of this. How can you blame me? Why shouldn't I blame you? If you hadn't been clinging to me all the time, would people have thought you were my childhood friend? If they didn't think we were childhood friends, would they have been joking about our relationship all the time? Mike Howard is talented and handsome. Look at yourself, you're not even close to him in any way. If I had to choose, of course I'd pick Mike, not a useless twat like you. Tiffany's words were like sharp knives, cutting into my heart one by one. I took a deep breath and said, word by word, first, I never intended to compete with him, and I already explained everything to you last night. You blocked me, so you didn't get the message. Of course I blocked you. Otherwise, you'd be buzzing around me like an annoying fly, driving me mad. She was emotional, her voice hoarse with anger. Zach Layton, I'm telling you to your face today, I hate you. I find you disgusting. From now on, we're strangers. Don't contact me again. I looked at her resolute expression and, after a long silence, nodded. Fine. After that confrontation in the stairwell, Tiffany Barnes and I became like strangers to each other. To avoid her, I deliberately went to the canteen at different times than her usual meal hours. By the time I arrived, the food was usually cold. After classes, I always stayed late, quietly reading in the classroom for an hour until just before the caretaker locked up. But even with my careful avoidance, Tiffany was still not satisfied. A few days later, one afternoon after all the other students had left, she cornered me in the classroom. Tiffany looked down at me imperiously and commanded, from now on, don't go to the canteen anymore. Bring your own lunch from home. Mike Howard doesn't want to see you in places where he's been. I frowned and retorted, why should I? Because you're not as rich as him, not as handsome as him. Is that enough? She said arrogantly. Seeing me stand up to leave, she suddenly blocked my way, her tone softening. Can't you just do me this favor? Zach, I really like him. I like him so much I can't live without him. You're my good friend. Can't you help me? I'll even pay you. I know your family is poor, and your dad is disabled and can't earn much. If you do as I say, I'll give you £50 every month. Only Tiffany, who had grown up with me, knew about my family situation. I never imagined she would use this weakness to try and persuade me to comply. I looked at Tiffany, feeling as if the girl before me was a complete stranger. After being friends for over a decade, in this moment, I suddenly didn't recognize her anymore. Zach, I'm begging you, please, Tiffany pleaded, looking at me with desperate eyes and shaking my arm. I gently pulled my arm away. I'll bring my own lunch tomorrow. Ha ha ha. The next second, Tiffany burst into laughter. To my surprise, several students suddenly appeared in the corridor. Everyone was laughing hysterically. Tiffany pointed at me and said to them, see, I told you he's just a pathetic puppy dog, not my childhood friend at all. He's been pestering me, it's all one-sided. It has nothing to do with me. Make sure you all tell Mike Howard tomorrow, all right? These classmates were laughing so hard they could barely respond, clutching their stomachs as they mocked me. What a poor background and a disabled father. I didn't realize his life was so miserable. Tiffany joined in the laughter. Isn't it? His dad walks like this. She even started imitating how my dad walks. My temples throbbed with anger. I shoved Tiffany aside and fled in humiliation. The next day, several new hot topics emerged at school. I became known as a simp among everyone, and rumors spread about my poor family background. Tiffany Barnes even added fuel to the fire, claiming I was so broke that I could barely afford to buy her a 3-pound Costa coffee every day. She implied that for me to be so generous, I must have tampered with the drinks. Then, she encouraged people at school to fabricate lies, saying I was doing inappropriate things in the toilets. In just one day, I went from being a simp to a pervert, enduring merciless mockery from the entire school. Even Year 12 students dared to point at me and call me a manual pervert. The situation escalated until it reached the head of year. He called Tiffany to his office for a stern talking to, then spoke to me privately, reminding me that A-levels were approaching and I should focus and not let my mind wander. I knew he was just worried I might report this to the police, which would affect the school's reputation. I swallowed my grievances and assured him not to worry. The A-levels were just around the corner, and once they were over, I could be free. For now, I could endure everything. In the following days, I buried myself in exam preparation, turning a deaf ear to the outside world. Those waiting to see me make a fool of myself gradually lost interest in taunting me when they saw I was ignoring their mockery. Tiffany was the same when we passed each other. She would at most roll her eyes, no longer verbally attacking me. I thought the worst days were over, believing I could turn my life around with the A-levels and leave the city full of ridicule and painful memories. But fate played a cruel joke on me. On the day of the A-levels, Tiffany asked to meet me, saying she wanted to discuss our plans after the exams. Her demeanor was serious, her tone gentle, as if we had returned to the days when we were close. Moreover, since she hadn't targeted me for quite some time, I let my guard down, thinking it was just a simple discussion about the exams and university applications. As we talked, we unknowingly walked into the equipment room. The next second, Tiffany suddenly rushed out and forcefully locked the door. I was stunned by this sudden turn of events and hurriedly banged on the door, shouting for her to stop joking and open it immediately. But all I heard was her triumphant laughter and the sound of her footsteps running away. I desperately called for help in the equipment room, my banging echoing through the empty corridor, but no one responded. In the end, I missed that day's exam. It wasn't until the evening when the security guard was patrolling that he heard my knocking and rescued me. I returned home in a daze, looking at the silhouettes of my parents busy in the kitchen. Guilt and pain washed over me like a tidal wave, and my eyes instantly welled up with tears. Seeing my unusual expression, my parents concernedly asked if I hadn't done well in the exam, comforting me that I could always take a resit year if needed. I wanted to tell them that Tiffany had locked me in the equipment room, causing me to miss the exam opportunity. I even had the impulse to call the police and have Tiffany arrested. But just then, Tiffany's parents came to visit, asking about my exam situation and expressing hope that Tiffany and I would apply to the same university. Tiffany's parents had always been good to my family. Because my father was disabled and our family income was low, they often helped us out. Their only wish was for Tiffany and me to end up together, eventually marrying and having children. In their words, they had watched me grow up and trusted my character. That's why they had initially let us attend the same sixth form, hoping I would look after Tiffany. Because we had grown up together, and due to the entrusting of both sets of parents, I had always been caring towards Tiffany. Little did I know that my indulgence and accommodation back then would lead to such bitter consequences today. Thinking of the friendship between our parents, I swallowed the accusations that had reached the tip of my tongue. I didn't want to worry the four elders, not for Tiffany's sake, but for the sake of this 20-year neighborly relationship. That night, my tears soaked my pillow, and I couldn't sleep at all. After a night of inner struggle, the next day I decided not to continue with the A-levels, but to directly opt for a resit year. After breakfast, I bid farewell to my parents, planning to work and save money for the resit fees before the new term started. Unexpectedly, my absence from the exam made Tiffany uneasy. In the afternoon, just after she finished her exam, she messaged me, asking why I didn't show up. Her previous message still had an exclamation mark, clearly having just removed me from her block list. Looking at the message on my phone, my heart turned cold, and I didn't respond. My silence, however, angered Tiffany, and she sent a series of messages. "It's all your own fault. Why are you acting so cold? Who told you to be rude and make people dislike you? Otherwise, who would target you? Anyway, your grades were just SOSO. What difference does it make if you miss a few exams? It was just a joke. Don't be so petty." Reading these words, I didn't even have the desire to explain. She locked me in the equipment room just to impress Mike Howard, to gain leverage to continue associating with him after the A-levels. She caused me to miss the most important exam of my life, yet she called it a joke and said it was my own fault. I knew very well that if I responded emotionally, this chat screenshot would appear on her Facebook, or even on the school forum, and her goal would be achieved. But I refused to give her that satisfaction. Tiffany, when you trampled on me in every way possible to please others, my heart had already died, and this door-locking incident had shattered it to dust. In this lifetime, I don't want to have any more entanglements with you. The next second, I blocked all her contact information. Meanwhile, Tiffany Barnes tried to send another message, only to find an exclamation mark appearing on her phone screen. This infuriated her, and she cursed angrily. "That's Zach Layton. How dare he block me?" She immediately tried to call me, but only heard a busy tone. Tiffany was furious and frantically typed on her Facebook, "You insecure loser. If you've deleted me, don't ever try to contact me again." Then she hurriedly contacted Mike Howard, recounting how she had locked me in the equipment room. Tiffany thought Mike would be overjoyed and laugh heartily, but instead, his response was, "Are you mad? Locking someone in the equipment room and making them miss their A-levels? Do you know that's illegal?" Tiffany was dumbfounded and quickly tried to clarify that it was just a little joke she played on me. She added that my grades were poor anyway, so missing a few exams wouldn't affect my miserable life. Mike, however, swiftly distanced himself. "You did this on your own. I didn't tell you to do it. Don't try to implicate me. Don't try to drag me into this. I never told you to do such a thing." With that, Tiffany found herself blocked by Mike as well. While my blocking her made her angry, Mike's rejection left her feeling ice cold. She frantically tried to explain herself, desperate to re-establish contact with Mike. But Mike's friend told her, "Get lost. Do you think he'd ever be interested in you? He was just killing time with you because he was bored in class. He's leaving for abroad tomorrow. Give it up. You're just an ugly duckling. Don't dream of becoming a swan." Tiffany was stunned, hurling abuse down the phone. After her outburst, she tried to contact me to apologize, but found she couldn't reach me at all. In desperation, Tiffany went directly to my house. Seeing my parents warmly welcome her, Tiffany felt deeply ashamed. When she inquired about my situation, my parents said I had gone out to work, preparing for my resit year. Hearing this, Tiffany felt even more guilty. She wanted to leave money with my parents to help with my resit year, perhaps to ease her conscience a bit. But she couldn't find any excuse to leave the money. Reluctantly, she left, feeling dejected. I found a job in a nearby city, working diligently every day to earn money. Though physically exhausting, I felt incredibly fulfilled. Time flew by, and soon it was time for the new school year to begin. Because my story had already spread in my previous school, I chose a different school for my resit year to study peacefully. On the first day of school, I entered the campus with my luggage, immediately becoming the focus of attention among the new students. I smiled calmly and openly stated that I was a resit student. The new students immediately gathered around, curious if the A-levels last year were too difficult. I told a white lie saying I couldn't participate due to illness. Unexpectedly, this casual remark sparked a student scramble among the head teachers during class assignments. Because this school's teaching quality was average, with few high-achieving students, I, as a former top school student, was certainly much stronger than the new year 14 students here. The teachers all wanted to recruit me, hoping to raise their class's average score. They even engaged in a heated debate to state their cases. The head teacher of Class 1 spoke first. "Our class has few boys and many girls, with a ratio of 1:10. If you join us, well..." The head teacher of Class 2 wasn't to be outdone. "Our class has the strongest academic atmosphere." The head teacher of Class 3 quipped, "You call that laziness a strong academic atmosphere? Come to our class. I guarantee you'll study in peace, because they're all daydreaming." The head teacher of Class 4 simply stated, "The top 10 students in the year group are all in our class." Hearing this, I turned to the teacher in charge of class assignments and asked, "Teacher, can I go to class 4?" Finally, I entered the legendary academic powerhouse of Class 4 as I wished. Upon arriving at Form 4B, I glanced at the report cards and realized something was amiss. The gap between the first and second place scores was a staggering 200 points, a difference that left me gobsmacked. What's more, the second place score wouldn't even make the top 50 at my previous school. Fortunately, the top student, a girl named Yvette Elliott, had consistently impressive results, always securing the first place in the year group. This suggested that not all students at this school were run-of-the-mill. Ahem. Let me introduce a special student, Zach Layton, the head teacher announced as he entered the classroom, calling me to the front. After introducing me, he pointed to an empty seat next to a female student. "Zach, you'll sit there. It works out well as Yvette is in year 13 resit, and you're in year 14, so you're about the same age." I looked towards the girl, so this was Yvette Elliott, and she was resiting year 13. I picked up my books and walked towards the empty seat next to her. She looked up at me with a warm smile, dimples appearing on her cheeks. "Hello there. Looks like we'll be desk mates from now on." Her smile was like the first bloom of spring, instantly dispelling any lingering gloom in my heart. "Hello? I'm pleased to be your desk mate," I responded with a smile. As I sat down, I caught a whiff of her subtle jasmine scent, which blended unexpectedly well with the smell of ink in the classroom. It brought an inexplicable sense of comfort. In the days that followed, Yvette and I gradually became more familiar with each other. In class, we were in perfect sync, as if we could read each other's minds. Once during English class, the teacher posed a complex grammatical analysis question. As soon as the question was asked, we both raised our hands almost simultaneously. When we stood up to answer, not only was our grammatical breakdown spot on, but even our example sentences were identical. The teacher's eyes were full of approval as he pushed up his glasses and said with a smile, "The performance of these two students is textbook perfect. Everyone should learn from them." Our classmates cast admiring glances our way, and the classroom erupted in enthusiastic applause. After class, a corner of the library became our secret base. The wooden bookshelves exuded an ancient charm, and sunlight filtered through the mottled glass of the windows, falling on rows of books and us. One time, I was stuck on a difficult physics problem. My draft paper was covered in a maze of formulas, but my thoughts were like a tangled mess, getting more confused the more I tried to sort them out. Yvette noticed my frustration and leaned in gently to offer guidance. As her hair swayed lightly, her voice flowed like a clear stream. "Look, you should start with this known condition here, and then use this theorem to deduce." Her explanation unraveled the problem step by step, making everything clear to me. With her help, I had a sudden epiphany. The joy of solving the problem and my gratitude towards her intertwined, giving me a different feeling about my desk mate. At that moment, the rustling of turning pages faded into the background, and only the resonance of knowledge flowed between us. Later, the school organized a knowledge competition covering multiple subjects. As soon as the news broke, the entire campus was abuzz with excitement. Our head teacher paced back and forth in the classroom, his brow furrowed, speaking as if the sky was falling. "Our Form 4B has taken all the top 10 spots in the year group. If we lose this competition, we might as well pack it in." Yvette and I instinctively exchanged glances, smiled at each other, and both raised our hands to volunteer as a team. During that period, every day after classes, when everyone else had left the classroom, only we remained in our seats, preparing for the competition. Under the dim light, we sat with our heads close together, quizzing each other and filling in the gaps in our knowledge. Yvette Elliott had a sharp mind, effortlessly recalling humanities subjects. Whether it was analyzing Shakespearean sonnets or tracing the threads of historical events, she could explain everything with clarity and depth. I, on the other hand, was slightly stronger in the sciences. When faced with complex mathematical functions or challenging physics problems, I could quickly untangle the logic and find the path to the solution. When we disagreed, we would argue heatedly, each stubbornly defending our position, neither willing to back down. But in the end, we always found the correct answer through our intense discussions, and then we'd share a smile. On the day of the competition, the atmosphere was tense yet exhilarating. The assembly hall was packed with spectators, and the judges were poised and ready. We worked together flawlessly. In the compulsory question round, we easily scored points thanks to our solid knowledge base. During the quick-fire round, Yvette was lightning fast, always managing to hit the buzzer first, while I was responsible for giving precise answers. We progressed steadily, successfully making it to the finals. The last question of the finals was a complex, interdisciplinary problem that touched on multiple subject areas. As the seconds ticked away, I grew anxious, my palms sweating and my mind blank. Yvette quietly took my hand. Her grip was warm and reassuring, and she gave me a determined look. It was as if she was saying, "Don't panic, we've got this." Encouraged by her support, I calmed down. Together, we quickly organized our thoughts, our pens flying across the scratch paper. In the end, we delivered a perfect answer. When the host announced that we had won first place, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Yvette jumped up excitedly, throwing her arms around me, her face beaming with a radiant smile. We did it! Our head teacher was so thrilled that he leapt onto a table and spontaneously broke into a celebratory dance, causing the whole hall to erupt in laughter. But at that moment, I was oblivious to the cheers and applause around us. In my world, there was only Yvette's brilliant smile and the sound of my own heart pounding. As winter arrived, the campus was blanketed in snow, with the school buildings and trees all dressed in a layer of pristine white. That day, our head teacher mysteriously slipped me 2 cinema tickets. "Don't let Yvette down, lad. She only took a resit year last year to look after her ill mum." I paced around the sports field until dusk, clutching the cinema tickets, as snowflakes began to fall gently. Yvette came out of the school building, hugging her workbooks, with snowflakes settling on her hair like the jasmine pattern on her jumper. "I've known for a while that you weren't really ill when you missed those exams," she suddenly said, startling me so much I nearly dropped the tickets in the snow. "I found the disciplinary notice from your old school in your textbook. I'm sorry, I never mentioned it." With that, Yvette pulled me onto the sports field as snowflakes danced around us. She grabbed a handful of snow, shaped it into a ball, and with eyes sparkling with mischief, threw it at me. "Take that!" The snowball arced through the air, landing on my shoulder and exploding into a shower of snow. Laughing, I retaliated, quickly scooping up snow and forming it into a ball to throw back at her. Soon, snowballs were flying back and forth between us. We chased each other across the snowy field, our footprints gradually covering the entire area, our laughter echoing across the campus long after we'd finished. Exhausted, we lay side by side in the snow, gazing up at the gray sky, our breath forming white clouds in the cold air. Yvette suddenly spoke. "Zach, every day has been different since I met you. I thought my resit year would be boring, but because of you, it's been so much fun." Her voice was soft, with a hint of shyness. I turned my head to look at her cheeks, flushed from the cold, and felt a warmth spreading through me. Finally, I gathered the courage to take her hand, feeling the warmth of her palm. "Yvette, it's the same for me. You're like a ray of light that's shone into my life. When I was at my lowest, you gave me hope again." Yvette smiled shyly, snowflakes glistening on her eyelashes. Our hands clasped tightly together, as if holding onto our future. And there, on that pristine snow-covered field, we made a silent promise to each other. In the romantic atmosphere of falling snow, we somehow stumbled into a relationship. That evening, back in my dormitory, I couldn't contain my excitement. I picked up my phone and posted on Facebook, "Will you let me cherish you forever after we graduate from university?" As soon as I posted this status, my roommates started teasing me in the comments section, accusing me of being overly sentimental. They playfully pushed me around, but the smile of happiness on my face only grew wider, my heart full of sweetness. Not long after, Yvette Elliott replied with a cheeky, "Okay," hand gesture emoji, and sent me a private message. Pinky promise. No takebacks for 100 years. Okay? Looking at the message on my phone screen, I could almost see her playful expression, and my lips curved into an involuntary smile. This simple interaction instantly livened up the atmosphere in our dormitory, with everyone chiming in to congratulate us. Meanwhile, Tiffany Barnes had arrived at her new university. The unfamiliar environment and strange faces made her feel uncomfortable every day. Without my care, she stumbled at every turn in her daily life. Whenever she encountered difficulties, she would habitually try to contact me, only to see that familiar red exclamation mark each time. This infuriated Tiffany. She hid in her dormitory, burying herself under the covers, unable to hold back her tears as she cursed me as a beast under her breath. In her low spirits, she suddenly thought of contacting her old classmates, trying to get news about me from them, perhaps out of a desire to stir up drama. One of her classmates sent her a screenshot of the Facebook post I had just made. When Tiffany saw the line, "Will you let me cherish you forever after we graduate from university?" she immediately sat up in bed. A smug expression crossed her face. "Zach Layton, I knew you couldn't let me go. You're planning to come find me after successfully residing your A-levels, aren't you?" Humph. After this self-satisfied monologue, Tiffany sat on the edge of her bed, crossing her legs as she began to look up the entry requirements for her university. As she browsed, she muttered to herself, "It's only about 300 UCAS points. Zach, that useless fool, should be able to get in after a resit year, right?" Time flew by, and before we knew it, it was time for the A-levels again. Yvette and I walked into the exam hall, brimming with confidence. Yvette, clutching her pencil case, pressed her lips together and gave me an encouraging gesture, her eyes bright and determined. "Zach, it's time to prove ourselves. Let's do our best." I nodded with a smile, gently patting the top of her head as I said softly, "Relax, we've got this." As I stepped into the exam hall, the shadow of being locked in the equipment room and missing the A-levels last year seemed to dissipate completely. In its place was the confidence I had built up over the year with Yvette by my side, and our hopes for the future. During these 2 days of exams, we encouraged each other as usual. After each exam, we would meet at the school gates to exchange our thoughts. Yvette would always produce my favorite sweets from her bag as if by magic, unwrapping them and popping them into my mouth with a smile, saying, "Recharge your energy. Let's keep going for the next one." Her sparkling eyes, full of anticipation for the future, filled me with fighting spirit. After the A-levels were over, we went to see the sea that she had always dreamed of. Walking on the soft, fine sand, feeling the sea breeze, watching the sunset turn the sea surface golden, the waves shimmering. Yvette suddenly stopped, turning to face me. "Zach, thank you so much for this past year. You made me understand that resiting isn't failure, but the courage to start anew." I reached out to tuck her wind-tousled hair behind her ear, looking into her eyes earnestly as I said, "I'm the one who should be thanking you. Without you, I might still be trapped in the shadows of the past. You gave me the courage to face life again. And you showed me that happiness can be this simple." The tide gently washed over our ankles, bringing a cool sensation before slowly receding. In this moment, time seemed to stand still, with only the sound of our heartbeats intertwining, silently expressing our love for each other. When it came time to apply for universities, we didn't hesitate to choose the same top institution, the University of Cambridge. During the days of waiting for our offer letters, we worked part-time jobs together and planned our university life. Yvette Elliott even secretly researched the local eateries near the campus, saving countless food guides on her phone. She said she wanted to take me to try all the delicious spots. Her serious planning made me look forward to our future life together. Finally, the offer letters arrived. When we opened the envelopes at the same time and saw the name of our dream university, Yvette jumped up excitedly and threw herself into my arms. We held each other tightly, crying tears of joy, All our efforts and dedication were rewarded in that moment. A year later, at a class reunion, Tiffany Barnes arrived dressed to impress. She wore an elegant dress and perfect makeup, trying to present her best self. When asked about my situation, Tiffany's lips curled into an arrogant smile as she said disdainfully, "He missed out on his A-levels and couldn't go to university with me. He ended up at some rubbish school for a resit year. I reckon he still didn't do well and is too ashamed to contact me." At this point, a classmate took out their phone and mentioned my sweet posts on Facebook, reminding her that I seemed to be in a relationship. Hearing this, Tiffany wasn't surprised at all. Instead, she became even more smug. "He's just trying to cheer himself up, writing that for me to see. Don't worry, that loser can't live without me." Her words were full of confidence and contempt, as if she was certain I would come back to her. A few days after the class reunion was Tiffany's birthday. She dressed up carefully, eagerly waiting for me to show up with a birthday gift. But from day to night, she waited and waited. Even when it got dark, there was no sign of me. She anxiously asked her mom if I had come home yet. Her mom told her I had returned home yesterday. She was planning to go see me today and asked if Tiffany wanted to come along. Tiffany immediately lost her temper. In her mind, I should have come to find her first when I got back, especially since it was her birthday today. So she threw a fit, not letting her parents go, while she waited at home anxiously and angrily. But as it got close to midnight, she couldn't sit still any longer. The uneasiness and doubt in her heart grew stronger and stronger. With a stern face and complex emotions, she went to my house. Standing in front of my door, she took a deep breath and raised her hand to knock. Even at this moment, she still held onto a glimmer of hope, hoping to see my guilty face when the door opened, followed by my apologies and pleas for reconciliation. The door opened, and standing before her was an incredibly beautiful girl with an innocent and adorable face. Yvette Elliott blinked her eyes, looking curiously at Tiffany, then turned her head towards the room and called out sweetly, "Darling, who is this person?" I walked to the door and saw Tiffany's surprised and disbelieving expression. My heart no longer stirred. I smiled and introduced her to Yvette. "She's my neighbor, we grew up together. Her name is Tiffany Barnes." Yvette immediately put on a friendly smile and extended her hand graciously. "Nice to meet you, Tiffany. I'm Yvette Elliott, Zach's girlfriend." Tiffany's face instantly turned pale, her lips trembling slightly, her eyes filled with pain and shock. "When did you get a girlfriend?" I responded calmly and indifferently. "During my resit year. Yvette and I were desk mates, and we developed feelings for each other." Tiffany couldn't say a word, tears immediately welling up in her eyes and falling in large drops. My parents heard the commotion and came out from the house. Seeing this scene, they both looked conflicted. They knew about Tiffany's and my history and understood how awkward the current situation was, so they quickly called Tiffany's parents. Soon after, Tiffany Barnes's parents arrived at the scene. When they saw Yvette Elliott, their smiles became slightly strained. "Zach, who is this?" Tiffany's father was the first to break the silence. I bravely held Yvette's hand tightly and said with determination, "Mr. and Mrs. Barnes, this is my girlfriend, Yvette Elliott." "Oh, you have a girlfriend now, that's nice. Tiffany, have you said hello?" Tiffany's mother tried to ease the tension, but Tiffany just stared at me, tears streaming down her face, and suddenly shouted, "Zach Layton, I want you to break up with her right now. Don't you know about our arranged marriage?" Upon hearing this, Yvette didn't panic at all. Instead, she held my hand even tighter. She looked directly at Tiffany and said calmly, "I've heard about your situation from my boyfriend. You're still the other woman. Have you no shame?" Tiffany tried to argue emotionally, but Yvette continued speaking unhurriedly. "Arranged marriage, quite an uncommon term. However, there's no law stating that an arranged marriage can force two people together against their will. Also, you should know very well why Zach took a resit year. Thank you, Tiffany, for sending such a wonderful boy to me." Hearing this, Tiffany completely broke down. She shouted at me. "Zach Layton, I'm the one you love most, aren't I?" "No." I shook my head without hesitation. This answer, I had said it countless times in my heart. Tiffany was completely stunned. She rushed over to grapple with Yvette. I was quick to react, pulling Yvette back a step and immediately shielding her behind me. Tiffany was also held back by her parents. She struggled and cried, and the scene became quite chaotic for a while. "Zach Layton, you can't even get into university, you worthless piece of rubbish. How dare you dump me?" Tiffany shouted at the top of her lungs. But soon, her gaze was drawn to the offer letters in our hands. The University of Cambridge logo on the letter was strikingly prominent. Her eyes were fixed on it, her face turning from pale to green, then flushing red. She stumbled forward 2 steps, snatched the offer letter, her voice shrill as if it could cut through the air. "Impossible! How could you get into Cambridge? This must be fake." She frantically flipped through the offer letter, her fingers turning white at the knuckles from gripping it so hard. At this moment, my dad slowly walked over with his cane, his voice filled with undisguised pride. "Tiffany, Zach studied until midnight every day this year. Even during holidays, he was solving problems. He and Yvette encouraged each other, and they both got in." Tiffany's parents also came closer, taking the offer letter with trembling hands to examine it carefully, their eyes full of disbelief. Suddenly, Tiffany began to laugh hysterically, her laughter mixed with sobs. "So when you said, 'Promise a lifetime of tenderness,' it wasn't meant for me." She violently threw the offer letter to the ground, her nails digging deep into her palms. "Zach Layton, you're nothing but a pauper. Your dad is disabled. Your whole family relies on your mom's part-time jobs. How can you give her happiness?" Yvette gently freed herself from my hand, stepped forward, straightened her back, and looked at Tiffany with determination in her eyes. "Tiffany, happiness has never been measured by money. Zach taught me that as long as 2 people support each other, even the toughest road can be traveled. As for you, trampling on others' sincere feelings, what right do you have to say these things?" "You!" Tiffany, enraged and humiliated, raised her hand to strike Yvette. I quickly grabbed her wrist, my grip so strong it caused her pain. Seeing how I protected Yvette, Tiffany suddenly collapsed to the ground, crying bitterly. "Why? You used to only have eyes for me." I took a deep breath, my voice calm but each word clear. "I used to see you as family, but you repeatedly trampled on my dignity. From the day of the A-levels when you locked me in the equipment room, preventing me from taking the exam, the old me who cared about you was killed by you. The person standing in front of you now is a Zach Layton who lives for himself." Learning the truth, Tiffany's parents, with tears in their eyes, repeatedly apologized to us and dragged the still crying Tiffany away. Before leaving, Tiffany looked back at us one last time. Her eyes were filled with jealousy, regret, and unwillingness, but were ultimately shut out by the closing door. Later, Tiffany Barnes came to my door in tears more than once, her eyes full of remorse. With a choked voice, she said she would never be so capricious again and begged me for another chance. But the wounds of the past were too deep to erase, and my heart remained unmoved. To avoid her harassment, I decisively left home with Yvette Elliott, traveling and working odd jobs to save money for university fees. In the days that followed, we supported each other, facing life's hardships together. Every morning when I opened my eyes and saw Yvette beside me, I felt incredibly happy. We worked hard together for our future, planning the beautiful life that would be ours. After entering university, our relationship grew even deeper. After graduation, we held our engagement ceremony in our hometown, with friends and family coming to congratulate us. The ceremony venue was decorated warmly and romantically, with flowers, balloons, and ribbons adorning every corner. Amidst the bustling crowd, I caught a glimpse of Tiffany sitting in a corner. She was alone, crying her eyes out. As I looked at her, I felt no resentment, only a touch of melancholy. Everything from the past had become history, I had finally moved on from those painful memories and welcomed a new chapter in my life. As for Tiffany, she could only face the bitter fruits of her actions alone in her regret. Tiffany's monologue. I huddled in the corner of the engagement party, the laughter and joy around me seeming to have nothing to do with me. My nails dug deep into my palms as I watched Zach Layton and Yvette Elliott smiling happily on the stage, tears falling uncontrollably. They dripped onto the back of my hand, seeping into my skin, just like my shattered heart at this moment. Once, I thought Zach would always be my safety net. No matter how much I hurt him, he would always be there, silently following behind me, just like before. I remember when we were young, he always saved his favorite sweets for me. On rainy days, he would tilt the umbrella towards me, getting half of himself soaked while saying, "I like the rain." When I was ill, he would neatly copy his class notes for me, staying up late to rewrite his own homework. And what did I do? I took his kindness for granted. After Mike Howard appeared, I repeatedly trampled on Zach's dignity to please Mike. I thought Zach would always wait for me, that when I got tired of playing around, I could turn back and still see him there. So when he didn't show up for the A-levels, I thought he was just being moody. When he blocked me, I thought he was just playing hard to get. Until today, seeing the light in his eyes when he looks at Yvette, a warmth and passion I've never seen before. Only then did I realize, I've lost him completely. Why? He used to have only me in his world. I was too foolish, discarding true love like rubbish while chasing after vanity. To impress Mike Howard, I didn't hesitate to hurt the person who loved me most, even locking him in the equipment room, ruining his A-levels with my own hands. Now, my life at university is a mess. Without Zach's care, I can't even handle the simplest daily tasks. Whenever I face difficulties, he's still the first person I think of. But I know I no longer have the right to stand beside him. I hate myself, hate my capriciousness and stupidity, for destroying the person who loved me most with my own hands. Looking at the lively bustle of the engagement party, an unprecedented sense of loneliness engulfs me. That boy who once had eyes only for me, I've ultimately lost him, and this time he really won't look back.